Hello, and welcome to Napflix. Tonight, we are going to explore 100 fascinating facts about vegetables, the quiet, extraordinary plants that have fed civilizations, changed history, and shaped the world from beneath the soil. From ancient roots that powered empires to the chemistry that makes your eyes water when you slice an onion, this is the story of the most ordinary things on your plate, and the remarkable science hidden inside them. You do not need to stay awake for all of it. You do not need to remember any of it. Just let the words carry you. If your eyes grow heavy, let them close. If your mind begins to drift, let it drift. This is your time to rest. And if you enjoy what you hear, a like or subscribe helps others find their way here too. Now, let us begin. Carrots were not always orange. For most of human history, carrots came in shades of purple, white, yellow, and red. The orange carrot we know today is a surprisingly recent invention. Developed by Dutch farmers in the 1600s through selective breeding, which simply means choosing the plants with the traits you want and replanting their seeds generation after generation until those traits become dominant. The Dutch may have bred orange carrots to honor William of Orange, the leader of the Dutch revolt against Spain, though historians still debate this. The orange color comes from a pigment called beta-carotene, a molecule that plants make to help capture light during photosynthesis, the process by which plants convert sunlight into energy. When we eat carrots, our bodies break beta-carotene down into vitamin A, which is essential for healthy eyesight, immune function, and cell repair. Every orange carrot on your plate is a living connection to Dutch gardeners who worked the soil 400 years ago, selecting and replanting, slowly turning a tough, bitter wild root into the sweet vegetable we eat today. Here is a fact that surprises almost everyone who hears it for the first time. Broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and collard greens are all the same species. Every single one of them. They are all descended from a single wild plant called Brassica oleracea, a scrappy, leafy plant that still grows wild on the sea cliffs of the Mediterranean coast. Over thousands of years, farmers in different regions selected for different parts of the plant. Some chose plants with big, dense flower clusters, and eventually got broccoli and cauliflower. Some chose plants with large, tightly packed leaves, and got cabbage. Some chose plants with thick, curly leaves, and got kale. Some chose plants that grew tiny cabbages along a tall stalk, and got Brussels sprouts. All of them look completely different. All of them taste different. And all of them are the same species shaped by centuries of human hands, choosing which seeds to save. It is one of the most powerful demonstrations of selective breeding in the natural world. And it happened long before anyone understood genetics. When potatoes first arrived in Europe from South America in the late 1500s, almost nobody wanted to eat them. People thought they were ugly, dirty, and possibly poisonous, which was not entirely unreasonable since potatoes belong to the nightshade family, which includes several genuinely toxic plants. In France, potatoes were so distrusted that they were banned as food for humans in some regions. So a French pharmacist named Antoine Augustin Parmentier came up with a clever plan. He convinced King Louis XVI to let him plant a field of potatoes and post armed guards around it during the day, making the crop look royal, valuable, and forbidden. At night, the guards were quietly withdrawn. Local peasants, curious about what could possibly be worth guarding, snuck in and stole the potatoes, which was exactly what Parmentier wanted. The trick worked. People began growing potatoes across France, A single vegetable that had been rejected for 2 centuries became one of the most important crops in European history. All because one man understood that people want what they are told they cannot have. If you have ever eaten a hot chili pepper and felt your mouth burning, your lips stinging and your eyes watering, nothing was actually burning. No tissue was being damaged. The sensation was entirely an illusion created by a compound called capsaicin, which is concentrated in the white membranes inside the pepper. Capsaicin binds to receptors in your mouth called TVRP1 receptors. These are the same receptors that normally detect real heat and physical damage. When capsaicin activates them, your brain receives a signal that says, "This is burning," even though nothing is on fire. The plant produces capsaicin as a defense against mammals, which would crush the seeds by chewing. But here is the clever part. Birds are completely immune to capsaicin. They can eat the hottest peppers on Earth and feel nothing at all. This is not an accident. Birds swallow seeds whole and spread them far and wide in their droppings, which is exactly what the plant wants. It is an example of co-evolution, 2 species shaping each other over millions of years. The plant evolved to repel chewers and reward swallowers. And it worked. If you placed an ear of modern corn next to its wild ancestor, you would never guess they were related. Corn, also called maize, was domesticated over 9,000 years ago in southern Mexico from a wild grass called teosinte. Teosinte has tiny, hard seeds arranged in just 2 rows on a small cob barely longer than your finger. Modern corn has hundreds of soft, sweet kernels arranged in many rows on a cob the size of your forearm. The transformation is so dramatic that for decades, scientists could not agree whether the 2 plants were even related. Genetic analysis has now confirmed that they are, but the changes required were extraordinary. Ancient farmers selected plants with slightly larger kernels, slightly more rows, slightly softer seed coats, and replanted those seeds, generation after generation, for thousands of years. The result is a plant so thoroughly shaped by humans that it cannot survive in the wild. Modern corn kernels are too tightly attached to the cob to fall off and disperse naturally. If no human plants it, it does not grow. Corn and humans co-evolved. We shaped corn to feed us, and corn shaped entire civilizations. The Maya, the Aztec, and the Inca were all built on corn. Lettuce contains a substance with a surprisingly sleepy reputation. Wild lettuce and some older cultivated varieties produce a milky white sap called lacticarium, which oozes from the stem when it is cut. This sap contains compounds that have mild sedative and pain-relieving properties, meaning they can make you feel calm and drowsy. In the 1800s, lacticarium was sometimes used in medicine as a gentle sleep aid, and lettuce earned the nickname poor man's opium. The compounds in lacticarium are far weaker than actual opiates, and modern cultivated lettuce contains much less of it than wild varieties. But some people still report feeling relaxed after eating lettuce in the evening, and the science is not entirely settled on why. It may relate to the remaining lacticarium or to other nutrients in lettuce like folate, which helps the body produce brain chemicals involved in mood and sleep. Lettuce is the mildest, most overlooked vegetable in most salads. And yet, it carries within it a quiet chemistry that humans noticed thousands of years ago. A plant that might, just might, help you sleep. Cassava is one of the most important crops on Earth. A starchy root vegetable that feeds over 500 million people, particularly in Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia. It grows in poor soil, it survives drought, it produces enormous yields where other crops fail. But cassava has a dangerous secret. It contains compounds called cyanogenic glycosides, molecules that release hydrogen cyanide, a deadly poison when the plant's cells are broken. If cassava is eaten raw or prepared incorrectly, these compounds can cause serious illness or death. The amount varies by variety. Sweet cassava has lower levels and can be cooked like a potato, but bitter cassava has far higher concentrations and requires extensive processing. Traditional methods, peeling, grating, soaking in water for days, fermenting, and then cooking, remove most of the cyanide. These techniques were developed over thousands of years by communities that relied on cassava for survival, and the knowledge has been passed down through generations. It is a powerful reminder that some of the world's most important foods are only safe because of the accumulated wisdom of the people who learned to prepare them. Slicing an onion is one of the few cooking tasks that can make you cry. And the reason is pure chemistry. When you cut into an onion, you break open its cells, releasing enzymes that mix with sulfur-containing compounds stored separately inside the cell. These react and produce a volatile gas called SYN, propaneethyl S-oxide. Volatile means it evaporates quickly into the air. This gas is lighter than air and rises toward your face. When it reaches your eyes, it dissolves in the moisture on their surface and forms a tiny amount of sulfuric acid, a mild irritant. Your eyes respond the only way they know how. They produce tears to wash the irritant away. The whole sequence, cutting, mixing, gas, acid, tears, is a defense mechanism. Not for you, but for the onion. In nature, this chemical reaction protects the onion from animals that might try to eat it. The burning sensation discourages herbivores from taking a second bite. Humans, of course, decided the flavor was worth the tears. We have been eating onions for thousands of years, crying every time and coming back for more. The story of carrots and night vision is one of the most successful pieces of propaganda in military history. During World War II, the British Royal Air Force had developed a new technology, radar, that allowed their pilots to detect enemy aircraft in the dark with extraordinary precision. The British desperately wanted to keep this technology secret from the Germans, so they told the press that their pilots' remarkable night vision was the result of eating large quantities of carrots. The story was widely believed. Carrot consumption in Britain actually increased, and the radar secret was protected. But here is the thing: the propaganda was built on a tiny grain of truth. Carrots are rich in beta-carotene, which the body converts into vitamin A. Vitamin A is genuinely essential for vision. It helps produce a protein called rhodopsin in the back of the eye, which allows your eyes to function in low light. If you do not get enough vitamin A, you can develop night blindness, a real condition where your eyes struggle to adjust to dim conditions. So eating carrots does support healthy vision, but if your vitamin A levels are already normal, eating more carrots will not give you superhuman eyesight. The British knew that. They just needed a good story. And carrots were it. In a quiet monastery garden in what is now the Czech Republic, a monk named Gregor Mendel spent 7 years, from 1856 to 1863, growing and carefully observing thousands of pea plants. He chose peas because they had several traits that were easy to see and track. Seed color could be yellow or green, seed shape could be round or wrinkled, flowers could be purple or white. Mendel cross-pollinated plants with different traits and recorded what appeared in the next generation and the generation after that. Through painstaking observation and mathematical analysis, he discovered that traits are inherited in predictable patterns. Some traits are dominant. They always show up when present. Others are recessive. They hide behind the dominant trait but can reappear in later generations. Mendel had discovered the basic laws of inheritance. He called the units that carry these traits factors. We now call them genes. His work was published in 1866, and almost nobody noticed. It was ignored for over 30 years. It was not until 1900, 16 years after Mendel's death, that scientists rediscovered his papers and realized he had laid the foundation for the entire field of genetics. The humble pea plant helped unlock one of the deepest secrets of life. And the man who did it never knew. When tomatoes first arrived in Europe from the Americas in the 1500s, they were met with fear. They belonged to the nightshade family, a group of plants that includes deadly belladonna and mandrake. And people assumed the bright red fruit must be poisonous. For nearly 2 centuries, tomatoes were grown in European gardens purely as ornamental plants, admired for their color but never eaten. The fear was reinforced by an unfortunate coincidence. Wealthy Europeans often ate from pewter plates which contained lead. The acid in tomatoes would leach lead from the pewter, causing lead poisoning. People blamed the tomato, not the plate. It was not until the 1700s and 1800s that tomatoes were gradually accepted as food, first in Italy and Spain, where they became central to the cuisine, and eventually across the rest of Europe and North America. The transformation was slow. Trust had to be rebuilt through experimentation and courage. Today, tomatoes are one of the most consumed vegetables in the world and are rich in lycopene, a powerful antioxidant, a compound that helps protect cells from damage that gives them their red color. The tomato's journey from feared curiosity to beloved staple took 300 years. Rhubarb is one of the strangest plants in any kitchen because one part of it is perfectly safe to eat and another part is poisonous. The thick, tart stems are used in pies, jams, and crumbles. But the large green leaves contain high concentrations of oxalic acid and compounds called anthraquinone glycosides, which are toxic. Eating rhubarb leaves can cause nausea, vomiting, and enlarge. Amounts kidney damage. The stems also contain some oxalic acid, but in much lower concentrations, low enough to be completely safe. This split, edible stem, toxic leaf, is a reminder that plants are not uniformly safe or unsafe. Different parts of the same plant can contain very different chemistry. Rhubarb has been used for thousands of years, originating in Siberia and Mongolia, where the dried root was valued as a powerful laxative and traded along the Silk Road. In medieval Europe, rhubarb root was so expensive it was worth more than saffron or opium. It was not until the 1700s, when sugar became widely available, that people began cooking the sour stems with sugar and discovered the combination we know today. Rhubarb teaches a simple but important lesson. Know your plant. Not every part is meant for eating. The heat you feel from horseradish is completely different from the heat of a chili pepper. And the science explains why. Chili heat comes from capsaicin, which activates pain receptors on your tongue and sits there, burning. Horseradish heat comes from compounds called isothiocyanates, which are volatile. They evaporate and travel up into your sinuses and nasal passages. That is why horseradish hits your nose, not your mouth. The burn rises upward instead of sitting on your tongue. And here is the interesting part. These compounds do not exist in the intact root. Horseradish contains 2 ingredients stored in separate compartments inside its cells, a compound called glucosinolate and an enzyme called myrosinase. When you grate or cut the root, you break the cells open, the 2 ingredients mix, and the enzyme rapidly converts the glucosinolate into isothiocyanates, the volatile compounds that hit your nose. The reaction happens fast. Freshly grated horseradish is intensely pungent, but if you leave it sitting, the compounds evaporate and the heat fades. Adding vinegar stops the enzyme reaction, locking in a moderate level of heat. The same chemistry is at work in mustard and wasabi. All of them use the same cellular booby trap, two harmless ingredients that become a weapon only when the plant is damaged. A single giant pumpkin can weigh over 2,000 pounds, roughly the weight of a small car. And under peak growing conditions, it can gain 50 or more pounds in a single day. How does a plant produce something that large, that fast? The answer is not what you might expect. Most of the growth comes not from the plant making more cells, but from individual cells getting bigger. Plant cells have rigid walls made of cellulose, a tough, structural material, and large internal compartments called vacuoles. These vacuoles can fill with water, inflating the cell like a balloon. The plant pumps sugars and nutrients into the developing pumpkin, which raises the concentration of dissolved substances inside the cells. Water then follows by osmosis, the natural movement of water from areas of lower concentration to areas of higher concentration, inflating the vacuoles and stretching the cell walls. Thousands of cells expanding simultaneously, day after day, is what produces those record-breaking pumpkins. Competitive giant pumpkin growers optimize everything: water, nutrients, soil temperature, vine management, to maximize this expansion. It is agriculture pushed to its absolute limit, and it all comes down to water flowing into cells. If you have ever looked closely at a potato, you have noticed small indentations or bumps on the surface. These are called eyes, and they are not random. They reveal what a potato really is. A potato is not a root. It is a modified underground stem called a tuber. In a normal stem growing above ground, nodes are the points where leaves and branches sprout. In a potato, those same nodes become the eyes. And each one contains a bud capable of sprouting into an entirely new plant. This is why you can grow a potato from a potato. Cut it into pieces, make sure each piece has at least one eye. Plant them, and the buds will sprout, using the starch stored in the potato as fuel until the new plant grows leaves and can feed itself through photosynthesis. This ability to reproduce without seeds, called vegetative propagation, is the reason potatoes spread so successfully around the world. But it also creates a vulnerability. Because most commercial potatoes are grown from cuttings rather than seeds, they are genetic clones, identical copies. If a disease can attack one, it can attack them all. This was exactly what happened during the Irish potato famine in the 1840s, when a single fungal pathogen devastated an entire nation's food supply. Mushrooms sit in the vegetable aisle of every supermarket, but they are not vegetables. They are not even plants. Mushrooms are fungi, members of an entirely separate kingdom of life that is actually more closely related to animals than to plants. Unlike plants, fungi cannot make their own food from sunlight. They have no chlorophyll, no photosynthesis. Instead, they get their nutrients by breaking down dead organic matter, fallen leaves, rotting wood, dead animals, or by forming partnerships with living plants. And the mushroom you see above ground is just a small part of a much larger organism. Beneath the surface, a vast network of thread-like filaments called mycelium spreads through the soil, sometimes covering enormous areas. The mycelium is the main body of the fungus. The mushroom is just its fruiting body. The structure it produces to release spores, which are like seeds but far smaller and simpler. A single mushroom can release billions of spores into the air. Mushrooms are also one of the very few non-animal sources of vitamin D. When exposed to sunlight, they can produce it in their skin, just as human skin does. They are strange, ancient organisms that quietly recycle the dead into food for the living. Spinach has a reputation as a superfood packed with iron. And that reputation was built on a mistake. In 1870, a German chemist analysing the iron content of spinach is believed to have misplaced a decimal point, recording the iron content as 10 times higher than it actually was. The error was repeated in publications for decades. In the 1920s and 1930s, the cartoon character Popeye, who gained superhuman strength by eating cans of spinach, cemented the myth in popular culture. Spinach does contain iron, but it also contains a compound called oxalic acid, which binds to iron and calcium in the digestive system, forming clumps that your body cannot absorb well. This means that while spinach has iron on paper, your body only takes in a small fraction of it. Cooking spinach helps reduce the oxalic acid somewhat, making the remaining iron slightly more available. Despite all this, spinach is still genuinely nutritious. It is rich in vitamins A, C, and K, folate, magnesium, and compounds called lutein and zeaxanthin that support eye health. It is just not the iron powerhouse that a decimal point error and a cartoon sailor led the world to believe. When garlic cloves sit whole in your kitchen, they have almost no smell. But the moment you crush, chop, or chew them, a powerful odor fills the room. This is not a coincidence. It is a chemical reaction triggered by damage. Inside an intact garlic cell, two ingredients are stored in separate compartments: a compound called alliin and an enzyme called alliinase. When you crush the clove, the cell walls break, the two ingredients mix, and the enzyme rapidly converts alliin into allicin, the compound responsible for garlic's distinctive smell and many of its health benefits. Allicin is unstable and quickly breaks down into a range of sulfur compounds that have antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral properties. During World War I and World War II, when antibiotics were scarce, garlic was used as an antiseptic to treat infected wounds on the battlefield. Soldiers and medics called it Russian penicillin. Modern research has confirmed that garlic compounds can boost the immune system, reduce blood pressure, and act as antioxidants. The sulfur compounds are also why garlic breath lingers. They are absorbed into your bloodstream, carried to your lungs, and exhaled with every breath. You are not smelling garlic on your tongue. You are smelling it from inside your body. In the 1840s, Ireland experienced one of the most devastating famines in modern history. And the cause was a single species of fungus attacking a single variety of potato. By the early 1800s, the Irish population had grown rapidly, supported almost entirely by potato cultivation. Potatoes were the perfect crop. They produced more calories per acre than any grain. They grew in poor soil, and they were nutritious enough to sustain a family almost on their own. But there was a hidden danger. Nearly all the potatoes grown in Ireland were the same variety. Genetic clones, propagated from cuttings rather than seeds. When a fungal pathogen called Phytophthora infestans, a water mold that attacks the leaves and stems of potato plants, spreading through airborne spores, arrived in Ireland in 1845, it swept through the entire crop. Because every plant was genetically identical, every plant was equally vulnerable. There was no resistance anywhere in the population. Entire harvests were destroyed. Over the course of 6 years, roughly 1 million people died of starvation and disease, and over 1 million more emigrated. The Irish potato famine is a tragedy that teaches one of the most important lessons in agriculture. Genetic diversity is survival. When every plant is the same, a single disease can destroy them all. If you have ever eaten an artichoke and then taken a sip of water, you may have noticed something strange. The water tasted sweet. This is not your imagination. Artichokes contain a compound called cynarin, which is found in the leaves and heart. Cynarin has an unusual effect on your taste buds. It temporarily blocks the receptors that detect sweetness. While cynarin is sitting on your tongue, sweet flavors are muted. But as soon as you wash it away, by taking a drink of water or eating something else, the sweet receptors suddenly become active again, and everything tastes sweeter than it normally would. Plain water tastes almost sugary. This effect varies from person to person, and it has caused real problems in the world of wine. Artichokes are considered one of the most difficult foods to pair with wine because they make the wine taste oddly sweet or metallic. The artichoke itself is one of the most unusual vegetables you can eat. What sits on your plate is an unopened flower bud of a thistle plant. The fleshy bases of the outer petals, called bracts, and the tender heart at the center are the edible parts. If left unharvested, the bud opens into a stunning purple flower. Beauty, chemistry, and a trick played on your tongue, all from a single thistle. If you have ever eaten beets and later noticed that your urine has turned pink or red, you are not alone, and nothing is wrong. The color comes from pigments in beets called beta-cyanins, which belong to a family of compounds called betalains. These pigments give beets their deep red-purple color. In some people, these pigments pass through the digestive system without being fully broken down, and they are excreted in the urine, a harmless condition called beeturia. Whether or not it happens to you depends on your stomach acidity, the types of bacteria living in your gut, and your individual digestive chemistry. For some people, beet pigments are destroyed during digestion and never reach the urine. For others, they pass straight through. The first time it happens, it can be alarming. Red urine is usually a reason to see a doctor. But if you ate beets in the last day or two, that is almost certainly the explanation. Betalains are also interesting because they are different from the red and purple pigments found in most other plants. Most red fruits and vegetables, like red grapes, cherries, and red cabbage, get their color from compounds called anthocyanins. Beets use an entirely different chemical pathway. They are red for a different reason than almost everything else in the produce aisle. Asparagus has a peculiar effect that most people have noticed, but few can explain. After eating asparagus, many people find that their urine develops a distinctive, strong odor, sometimes described as sulfurous or cabbage-like. This happens because asparagus contains a compound called asparagusic acid, which is found only in this vegetable. When your body digests it, asparagusic acid is broken down into several smaller sulfur-containing molecules, which are volatile, meaning they evaporate easily and produce a noticeable smell. The odor can appear in urine within 15 to 30 minutes of eating asparagus. But here is the twist. Not everyone can smell it. The ability to detect the odor is genetic, controlled by variations in your olfactory receptor genes, the genes that determine how sensitive your nose is to specific molecules. Some people produce the smell, but cannot detect it. Others can detect it easily. Studies suggest that a significant percentage of the population lacks the specific receptors needed to smell these compounds. So, at any dinner table where asparagus is served, some people will notice the effect afterwards and some will not. And neither group is wrong. It is simply a difference written into their DNA. Cucumbers are among the most water-rich foods on Earth, composed of roughly 95% water. This makes them extraordinarily refreshing, especially in hot climates, which is why they have been cultivated for at least 3,000 years, beginning in India. But how does a cucumber hold so much water inside while growing in soil that is often much drier? The answer is a process called osmosis, the natural movement of water across a membrane. From an area where there is more water to an area where there is less. The cells inside a cucumber plant's roots contain dissolved sugars and minerals, which means the concentration of water inside the cell is lower than in the surrounding soil. Water naturally flows into the root cells to balance this difference. Once inside the plant, the water travels upward through tiny tubes called xylem vessels and eventually reaches the fruit, where it is stored in the cells. Each cell has a large internal compartment called a vacuole that fills with water, keeping the cell firm and inflated, which is why a fresh cucumber feels crisp. If it loses too much water through evaporation, the vacuoles shrink, the cells deflate, and the cucumber goes soft and wrinkly. A fresh cucumber is, in a very real sense, a container of water held in place by the physics of osmosis. Despite sharing the word potato in their names, sweet potatoes and regular potatoes are completely unrelated. They belong to different plant families, grow in different ways, and are connected by nothing more than the fact that both produce something starchy underground. Regular potatoes are members of the nightshade family, the same family as tomatoes and eggplants, and they are tubers, which means they are modified stems. Sweet potatoes belong to the morning glory family, and they are tuberous roots, swollen roots, not stems. The distinction matters because it means these two plants evolved their underground storage strategy independently. They arrived at a similar solution: store energy underground for later use, through completely different evolutionary paths. Sweet potatoes are also interesting because of what happens when you cook them slowly. They contain enzymes called amylases that break starch down into simpler sugars. When you roast a sweet potato at a low temperature for a long time, you give these enzymes time to work before the heat eventually destroys them. The result is a much sweeter potato than if you cooked it quickly at high heat. The sweetness is not added. It was always there, locked inside the starch, waiting for the right enzyme and the right temperature to release it. Celery is sometimes called a negative calorie food, meaning it supposedly takes more energy to digest than it provides. The idea sounds appealing. Eat celery and actually burn calories in the process. A single stalk of celery contains roughly 6 calories, and the theory is that chewing and digesting it burns more than 6 calories. But the science does not quite support this. Your body does burn energy during digestion, a process called the thermic effect of food, but this typically accounts for only about 5 to 10% of the calories in whatever you ate. For a 6-calorie stalk of celery, that means digestion burns less than 1 calorie. So celery is not truly negative calorie. You still gain a tiny number of calories from eating it. That said, celery is still one of the lowest calorie foods you can eat. It is hydrating, and it contains vitamins K and C, potassium, and compounds called phthalides, which give celery its distinctive smell and may help lower blood pressure. The negative calorie myth is a good example of how a simple, appealing idea can take hold, even when the science tells a slightly more complicated story. Kale has a secret that farmers and gardeners have known for centuries. It tastes better after a frost. When temperatures drop near or below freezing, the kale plant responds by converting some of its stored starch into sugar. Starch is. a long chain of glucose molecules bonded together, the plant's way of storing energy. In cold weather, enzymes inside the plant break these chains apart, releasing individual sugar molecules. This serves a survival purpose. The sugar dissolves in the water inside the plant's cells, lowering the freezing point of that water. The same principle that makes salt melt ice on a winter road. By increasing the sugar concentration, the plant protects its cells from forming ice crystals, which would puncture the cell walls and kill the tissue. For the plant, this is emergency cold protection. For us, it means sweeter, less bitter kale. The same process, called cold sweetening, happens in parsnips, turnips, carrots, and Brussels sprouts. It is why winter root vegetables often taste better than summer ones. The plant is not trying to taste good for us. It is trying to survive. We just happen to benefit from its chemistry. Fennel has a flavor that most people recognize immediately. A sweet, distinctive taste often described as licorice or anise. This flavor comes from a single compound called anethole, an aromatic molecule found in fennel's essential oils. Anethole is also the compound responsible for the flavor of star anise and aniseed, which is why all three taste similar despite being completely unrelated plants. Anethole is remarkable because it is intensely sweet, roughly 13 times sweeter than table sugar by weight, though it is present in fennel in very small amounts. It binds to sweet taste receptors on the tongue, while also producing an aromatic quality that gives fennel its unmistakable character. The part of fennel commonly eaten as a vegetable is not a true bulb. It is the swollen base of the leaf stalks which wrap tightly around each other and form a bulb-like shape. The feathery green fronds on top are also edible and used as an herb, and the seeds are used as a spice. Fennel originated in the Mediterranean and has been cultivated since ancient times. The Greeks called it marathon, and the town of Marathon, where the famous battle was fought, was actually named after the wild fennel that grew in its fields. If you buy green, yellow, orange, and red bell peppers at the shop, you might assume they are all different varieties. Sometimes they are, but more often they are the same pepper at different stages of ripeness. A green bell pepper is simply an unripe pepper. If left on the plant, it will continue to mature, gradually changing color from green to yellow, then orange, then red. The color change happens because the chlorophyll, the green pigment used in photosynthesis, breaks down as the pepper ripens and other pigments become visible. Yellow and orange peppers contain carotenoid pigments similar to those in carrots. Red peppers contain high concentrations of pigments called capsanthin and epsorubin. The ripening process also changes the pepper's nutrition. A red bell pepper contains more than twice the vitamin C of a green one, and significantly more vitamin A. It is also sweeter because during ripening, the plant converts starches into sugars. The color change serves a purpose in nature too. Bright colors signal to animals that the fruit is ripe and the seeds inside are ready to be dispersed. Green, unripe fruit is often bitter, discouraging animals from eating it before the seeds are mature. When the fruit is ready, it dresses itself in color and sweetness. It is a signal. Come, eat me now. Brussels sprouts grow in a way that looks unlike almost any other vegetable. Instead of forming a single head like cabbage or a cluster of buds like broccoli, Brussels sprouts develop in rows along a tall central stalk that can grow over 3 feet high. Each sprout forms in the axil, the angle where a leaf meets the main stem. And each one is a tiny, perfectly formed cabbage in miniature. A single plant can produce dozens of these little heads. This unusual growth pattern is the result of selective breeding over centuries. Farmers encourage the plant to develop buds at each leaf junction, rather than directing all its energy into a single, large head. From a plant biology perspective, this involves manipulating how the plant distributes growth hormones, particularly auxins and cytokinins, which control where buds form and how they develop. Brussels sprouts have a reputation for bitterness, especially when overcooked. This bitterness comes from glucosinolates, sulfur-based defense compounds that the plant produces to deter insects. When Brussels sprouts are boiled too long, these compounds break down and release hydrogen sulfide, creating an unpleasant smell and intensifying the bitter taste. But roasting them at high heat does the opposite. It caramelizes the natural sugars and mellows the bitterness. The difference between a bitter, mushy Brussels sprout and a sweet, crispy one is almost entirely about how you cook it. Taro is a starchy root vegetable that has been cultivated for at least 7,000 years in tropical regions across Asia and the Pacific Islands. It is a staple food in Hawaii, Samoa, parts of Southeast Asia, and Africa. But raw taro has a defense mechanism that makes it dangerous to eat without proper preparation. The root contains needle-shaped crystals of calcium oxalate, microscopic sharp structures that are embedded in the plant's cells. If you bite into raw taro, these crystals pierce the soft tissue of your mouth and throat, causing an immediate and intense burning, itching sensation. It is not a chemical burn like capsaicin, it is a physical one, tiny needles stabbing into your tissue. The plant evolved this defense to discourage animals from eating it. Cooking taro at high temperatures destroys these crystals, making the root completely safe and delicious. In Hawaii, cooked taro is pounded into a smooth paste called poi, one of the oldest and most important foods in Hawaiian culture. The traditional method of preparation, cooking thoroughly, then pounding, was not just a recipe. It was survival knowledge, developed over thousands of years, ensuring that a potentially harmful plant became a nourishing staple. Radishes are among the fastest growing vegetables on Earth. Some varieties go from seed to harvest in less than 25 days, just over 3 weeks from planting to plate. This makes them a favorite of beginner gardeners and a useful crop for filling gaps between slower growing plants. But what makes radishes grow so fast? The answer lies in how plant cells work. When a radish seed germinates, the tiny plant inside begins growing through two simultaneous processes: cell division, where one cell splits into two, and cell elongation, where each new cell stretches and expands. Radishes are exceptionally efficient at both. The plant directs most of its early energy into developing the taproot, the swollen root we eat, which serves as an energy storage organ. The plant is essentially racing to store as much energy as possible before sending up a flower stalk and reproducing. If you leave a radish in the ground too long, it will bolt, meaning it redirects energy from the root to the flowers and seeds, and the root becomes woody, hollow, and bitter. Radishes come in far more shapes and sizes than most people realize. The small red globes common in supermarkets are just one type. Japanese daikon radishes can grow over 1 meter long. Black Spanish radishes have dark skin and sharp flavor. Watermelon radishes have green skin and bright pink flesh. All of them share the same biology: rapid cell division, fast growth, and a root designed to store energy for a future the plant never gets to see, because we eat it first. Okra is a vegetable that inspires strong opinions, mostly because of its texture. When okra is cut and cooked, especially in water, it releases a thick, slippery substance that many people find off-putting. This sliminess is caused by mucilage, a gel-like material made of long chains of sugar molecules called polysaccharides. When these chains come into contact with water, they absorb it and swell, creating the characteristic gooey texture. From the plant's perspective, mucilage serves several functions. It helps seeds retain moisture during germination and protects plant tissues from drying out. For cooks, the mucilage is either a feature or a bug, depending on the dish. In gumbo, the famous stew from Louisiana, okra's mucilage is essential. It thickens the broth and gives the dish its characteristic body. In fact, the word gumbo itself comes from a West African word for okra. In other preparations, cooks minimize the sliminess by using high heat, adding acidic ingredients like tomatoes or lemon, or cooking the okra whole without cutting it. Since the mucilage is released primarily when the cells inside the pod are damaged. Okra originated in Africa and was brought to the Americas during the transatlantic slave trade, where it became an important crop in the southern United States. Watercress, a small, peppery green that grows in shallow, flowing streams, was ranked the single most nutrient-dense fruit or vegetable by the United States Centers for Disease Control. Gram for gram, watercress provides more vitamin C than oranges, more calcium than milk, more iron than spinach, and more folate than bananas. It achieves this extraordinary density because of how it grows. The constant flow of water over its roots brings a continuous supply of dissolved minerals from upstream, and the plant absorbs these minerals with remarkable efficiency. Watercress can extract nutrients even from very dilute solutions, making it an exceptionally effective accumulator. However, this same ability means that watercress grown in contaminated water will absorb pollutants just as readily as nutrients, which is why commercially grown watercress is cultivated in carefully controlled, spring-fed beds. Watercress has been eaten for thousands of years. Ancient Greeks, Romans, and Persians all valued it as both food and medicine. Roman soldiers ate it to prevent scurvy on long campaigns. In Victorian England, watercress was so popular that street vendors sold bunches of it to workers as a cheap, nutritious breakfast, eaten by hand on the way to work. Parsnips, like kale, undergo a transformation in cold weather that makes them sweeter. But the chemistry is slightly different. Parsnips store energy in their roots primarily as starch, long chains of glucose molecules bonded together. When temperatures drop, enzymes called amylases become more active. These enzymes break the bonds between the glucose molecules, splitting the long starch chains into individual sugars, a process called starch hydrolysis. The sugar concentration in the root increases, which serves a survival purpose. Higher sugar concentration lowers the freezing point of the water inside the plant cells, protecting them from ice damage. The process is chemically similar to what happens during malting, the first step in brewing beer, where barley seeds are encouraged to break down their starches into sugars. In the parsnip, it is a natural cold defense. For us, it means a noticeably sweeter root. This is why parsnips were traditionally harvested in late autumn or winter, after the first frosts. In medieval Europe, before potatoes arrived and before sugar was widely available, parsnips were one of the most important root vegetables, used in soups, stews, and even desserts. Parsnip wine was a common homemade drink. When potatoes spread across Europe, they gradually replaced parsnips as the everyday root vegetable. But parsnips never disappeared. They remain a winter staple, sweeter now than in summer thanks to a cold night and an enzyme. Ginger is not a root, it is a rhizome, which is an underground stem. The distinction matters because roots and stems have different biology. A root's primary job is to anchor the plant and absorb water and nutrients from the soil. A rhizome's job is to store energy and produce new growth. If you look at a piece of fresh ginger, you can see small bumps on the surface. These are nodes, the same kind of growing points you would find on an above-ground stem. Each node can sprout a new shoot, which is how ginger reproduces. You do not grow ginger from seeds. You grow it by planting a piece of rhizome and letting the nodes sprout, a method called vegetative propagation. The sharp, warming bite of fresh ginger comes from compounds called gingerols, which are chemically similar to capsaicin, the compound that makes chili peppers hot. When ginger is dried or cooked, gingerols are converted into different compounds called shogaols and zingarone, which have a slightly different flavor. Less sharp, more warming. Ginger has been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years to treat nausea, and modern research has confirmed that it can be effective, particularly for morning sickness during pregnancy and nausea caused by chemotherapy. Cauliflower is white for a specific biological reason, and it has nothing to do with being bleached or treated. As a cauliflower head develops on the plant, the large outer leaves naturally curl upward and around the developing florets, blocking sunlight from reaching them. Without sunlight, the florets cannot produce chlorophyll, the green pigment that plants use for photosynthesis. No chlorophyll means no green color. The result is a pale, creamy white head. This process is called blanching, not the cooking technique, but the horticultural one. And in some varieties, farmers assist it by tying the outer leaves over the head to ensure complete light exclusion. Purple cauliflower, on the other hand, contains anthocyanins, the same antioxidant pigments found in blueberries and red cabbage, which develop when the florets are exposed to sunlight. Orange cauliflower contains elevated levels of beta-carotene, the same pigment that makes carrots orange, and it provides more vitamin A than white cauliflower. These colorful varieties are not genetic modifications. They were developed through natural selective breeding, often by rediscovering older heirloom varieties that had been forgotten as white cauliflower became the commercial standard. Cabbage fermented into sauerkraut may have saved more sailors' lives than any medicine of its era. During the age of exploration, the greatest killer on long sea voyages was not storms or pirates. It was scurvy, a disease caused by vitamin C deficiency. Fresh fruits and vegetables could not survive months at sea, and without them, sailors' bodies could not produce collagen, a protein essential for healthy skin, gums, and blood vessels. Teeth loosened, gums bled. Wounds refused to heal. Thousands died. But cabbage could be preserved through fermentation, a process where beneficial bacteria called lactobacillus consume the sugars in the cabbage and produce lactic acid, which creates an acidic environment that prevents spoilage. The resulting sauerkraut retained its vitamin C content and could last for months in barrels. Captain James Cook famously carried large supplies of sauerkraut on his voyages in the 1770s. And, remarkably, none of his crew died from scurvy, an extraordinary achievement at the time. The science behind fermentation was not understood until the 1800s, when Louis Pasteur demonstrated that it was caused by living microorganisms, not by spontaneous chemical change. Fermented cabbage also contains probiotics, live beneficial bacteria that support gut health. Eggplants, also called aubergines, spent centuries as an ornamental plant before anyone dared to eat them. Like tomatoes and potatoes, eggplants belong to the nightshade family, and they were viewed with deep suspicion when they first appeared in European gardens. Early varieties were often small, round, and white or yellow, resembling eggs, which is where the English name comes from. The fear was not entirely irrational. Eggplants do produce an alkaloid compound called solanine as a defense against pests and disease, the same compound found in the green parts of potato skins. In large amounts, solanine can cause nausea, vomiting, and neurological symptoms. However, the levels in ripe eggplant flesh are very low and perfectly safe. Unripe or overly mature eggplants may contain slightly higher levels, which can contribute to a bitter taste. Cooking reduces alkaloid content further. It was not until the Middle Ages that eggplants became widely accepted as food, first in the Middle East and Mediterranean, where they became essential to dishes like baba ganoush, moussaka, and caponata. The flesh of an eggplant is spongy, made of cells with large air pockets, which is why it absorbs oil and flavors so readily when cooked. Every zucchini on your plate began as a flower, and that flower needed a bee. Zucchini plants produce two types of flowers, male flowers and female flowers, both on the same plant. The male flowers produce pollen, but no fruit. The female flowers have a small swelling at the base, the beginnings of the zucchini. But they cannot develop unless pollen from a male flower is delivered to them, almost always by a bee. If pollination does not occur, the tiny fruit shrivels and drops off. Once successfully pollinated, the ovary swells rapidly. A zucchini can grow from pollination to harvest size in just a few days, under the right conditions. The plant is extraordinarily productive. A single zucchini plant can produce dozens of fruits over a growing season, which is why gardeners often joke about having more zucchini than they know what to do with. From a botanical perspective, every zucchini is a swollen ovary, the reproductive structure of the plant, filled with developing seeds. Zucchini originated in the Americas, where indigenous peoples cultivated squash for thousands of years. When Spanish explorers brought squash seeds back to Europe, Italian gardeners selectively bred a variety with tender skin, mild flavor, and fast growth, and named it zucchini, meaning little squash in Italian. Jerusalem artichokes have one of the most misleading names in the entire vegetable world. They are not from Jerusalem, and they are not artichokes. They are the underground tubers of a species of sunflower, Helianthus tuberosus, native to North America. The plant produces tall stems with bright yellow flowers that look like small sunflowers, and beneath the soil, it develops knobby tubers with a sweet, nutty flavor and a crisp texture when raw. The Jerusalem in the name may be a corruption of girasole, the Italian word for sunflower. The artichoke part comes from early European descriptions of the flavor, which some compared to globe artichokes. Native American tribes cultivated Jerusalem artichokes long before European contact. When European explorers encountered them, they brought the tubers back to Europe, where they became briefly popular before being overshadowed by potatoes. Jerusalem artichokes store their energy not as starch, like potatoes, but as inulin, a type of fiber made of chains of fructose rather than glucose. Human digestive enzymes cannot break inulin down, so it passes to the large intestine, where gut bacteria ferment it. This fermentation produces gas, which has earned the vegetable the unfortunate nickname fartichoke. Despite this drawback, inulin is a prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria and supports digestive health. Bok choy, one of the oldest cultivated vegetables in China, grown for over 5,000 years, belongs to a species that has become surprisingly important to modern science. Bok choy is a variety of Brassica rapa, a species that also includes turnips, napa cabbage, and various Asian greens. What makes this species remarkable from a research perspective is that some varieties can complete their entire life cycle, from seed to flower to new seed, in as little as 40 days. Scientists have developed a research variety called rapid cycling Brassica rapa, sometimes called fast plants, which they use to study genetics, development, and evolution in a real time. Because these plants grow so quickly under continuous light, researchers can observe multiple generations in a matter of months, something that would take years with slower-growing organisms. In the kitchen, bok choy is a staple in Chinese cooking, used in stir-fries, soups, dumplings, and steamed dishes. The white stalks are crisp and juicy, while the dark green leaves are tender and cook quickly. It is rich in vitamins A, C, and K, as well as calcium and folate. Bok choy is a reminder that the vegetables on your dinner plate and the organisms in a research laboratory are often the same thing. Rutabaga, also called swede or yellow turnip, is a vegetable with a remarkable origin story. It is a natural hybrid between two different species, cabbage and turnip. This cross most likely happened spontaneously in Scandinavian fields during the Middle Ages, when the two crops were grown close together. Pollen from one species fertilized the flowers of the other, producing offspring with characteristics of both parents. Over time, farmers noticed these hybrid plants and selected the ones that produced large, sweet roots, gradually developing the rutabaga we know today. Rutabagas are larger than turnips with yellow or orange flesh and a sweet, earthy flavor. They are hardy, cold-tolerant, and store well through winter. The hybrid origin of the rutabaga is a natural example of how entirely new crop species can come into existence. Many of the plants we eat are hybrids, sometimes occurring spontaneously, sometimes created intentionally by plant breeders. Hybridization combines traits from different species, potentially producing plants with improved flavor, yield, or resilience. In Scotland, where rutabagas are called neeps, they are traditionally mashed and served alongside haggis on Burns Night. A vegetable born from a chance encounter between cabbage and turnip pollen, centuries ago in a Scandinavian field, now stars in a national celebration. Arugula, also called rocket, was considered an aphrodisiac in ancient Rome. The Romans grew it in gardens dedicated to Priapus, the god of fertility, and valued its bold, peppery flavor as a sign of vitality. The peppery bite of arugula comes from the same family of compounds that give horseradish and mustard their kick, glucosinolates. When you chew arugula leaves, enzymes break these glucosinolates down into isothiocyanates, the same volatile compounds that create the nasal burn of horseradish. In arugula, the concentration is lower, producing a pleasant peppery warmth rather than an overwhelming heat. Arugula is one of the fastest growing salad greens, ready to harvest just a few weeks after planting, and it grows best in cool weather. In hot weather, the plant bolts, sending up a flower stalk, and the flavor becomes sharper and more bitter as glucosinolate levels increase. Younger leaves are milder, mature leaves are more intense. Beyond glucosinolates, arugula also contains nitrates, compounds that your body converts into nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes blood vessels, improves blood flow, and may enhance athletic performance and cardiovascular health. The same compound that made Romans associate arugula with vitality turns out to have a measurable effect on the circulatory system. They were not entirely wrong. Emperor Nero of Rome ate leeks obsessively. He consumed them in enormous quantities, believing they would improve the quality of his singing voice. He ate so many that the Romans gave him a nickname, Poriphagus, which means leek eater. Whether leeks actually helped his voice is doubtful, but the story reveals how highly leeks were valued in the ancient world. Leeks have been cultivated for thousands of years, with evidence of their use in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Unlike onions, which form a round bulb, leeks develop a long, cylindrical stalk made of tightly wrapped leaf bases. As the plant grows, it continuously produces new leaves from the center, and the outer leaves elongate, creating concentric layers, similar to an onion, but in a different shape. Gardeners often pile soil up around the base of growing leeks, a technique called earthing up, to block sunlight from the lower stalk, keeping it white and tender. Leeks are members of the allium family, related to onions and garlic, and they contain the same sulfur compounds that give those vegetables their flavor and health benefits. But leeks are milder. They produce far less of the volatile compounds that make onions cause tears, which is why you can slice a leek without crying. Swiss chard looks nothing like a beet. Its large, ruffled leaves and thick, colourful stems bear no resemblance to a dark red root vegetable. And yet, they are the same species, Beta vulgaris. Beets were bred for their swollen roots. Chard was bred for its leaves and stems. Centuries of selective breeding took the same wild plant in two completely different directions. One of the most striking features of chard is the colour of its stems, which can be vivid red, yellow, orange, pink, or white. These colours come from betalain pigments, the same family of compounds that give beets their deep red colour. Red and pink stems contain beta-cyanins. Yellow and orange stems contain beta-xanthins. The intensity of the colour depends on the variety and the growing conditions. Chard has been cultivated in the Mediterranean for thousands of years. Aristotle wrote about red chard in the 4th century BCE. It is one of the best sources of vitamin K, and it also provides vitamins A and C, magnesium, potassium, and iron. Like beets and spinach, chard contains oxalic acid, which can bind to calcium and reduce absorption, but cooking reduces the oxalic acid content. A vegetable that shares its DNA with beetroot but looks, tastes, and grows entirely differently. Shaped by the decisions of farmers over 2,000 years. Before 1492, no pepper of any kind, not chili, not bell, not jalapeno, existed anywhere outside the Americas. Indigenous peoples in Central and South America had been cultivating peppers for thousands of years, developing an extraordinary range of shapes, sizes, colors, and heat levels. When Christopher Columbus encountered peppers in the Caribbean, he brought them back to Europe, mistakenly calling them peppers because their spicy flavor reminded him of black pepper, even though the two plants are completely unrelated. Portuguese traders then carried peppers to Africa and Asia, where they spread with astonishing speed. Within 100 years of Columbus, peppers had transformed cuisines across the entire world. Korean kimchi, Thai curry, Indian vindaloo, Hungarian goulash, Sichuan mapo tofu. None of these dishes existed in their current form before peppers arrived from the Americas. It is difficult to think of any single food that reshaped global cooking as quickly and as completely as the chili pepper. A plant that had spent thousands of years in the Americas crossed the ocean and became indispensable to cultures that had never seen it before. The tomato is botanically a fruit, but legally, in the United States, it is a vegetable. This is not a casual distinction. It was decided by the Supreme Court. In 1893, the case of Nix versus Hedden reached the highest court in the country over a question of tariffs. At the time, imported vegetables were taxed, but fruits were not. A tomato importer argued that tomatoes were fruits, which they are botanically, since a fruit is the mature ovary of a flowering plant, containing seeds. By that definition, cucumbers, peppers, and zucchini are also fruits. But the court ruled that in common language and culinary use, the tomato is treated as a vegetable, eaten in savoury dishes, not desserts, and should therefore be taxed as one. The ruling did not change biology. It simply acknowledged that scientific categories and everyday language do not always agree. A botanist, a chef, and a lawyer can all classify a tomato differently, and all be correct within their own context. Potatoes produce more calories per acre of farmland than wheat, rice, or corn. This makes the potato the single most efficient calorie-producing crop on Earth when measured by land use. A field of potatoes can feed more people than the same field planted with any grain. This extraordinary productivity is one of the reasons potatoes became so important in Europe after they arrived from South America. In Ireland, as we discussed earlier, potatoes became the foundation of an entire nation's diet. But the same was true across much of Northern Europe. Germany, Poland, Russia, and Scandinavia all became heavily dependent on potatoes because they could sustain larger populations on smaller amounts of land. The potato's efficiency comes from its biology. As a tuber, a swollen underground stem, it stores energy as dense starch with very little waste. Nearly the entire potato is edible. Grains, by contrast, produce energy in their seeds, which must be separated from stalks, husks, and chaff. The potato simply grows underground, stores its energy, and waits to be dug up. Simple, efficient, and more productive per acre than anything else we grow. Kohlrabi looks like a vegetable from another planet. A pale green or purple sphere with leaves sprouting out of it in every direction, sitting just above the soil like a hovering orb. Despite its alien appearance, kohlrabi is simply another form of Brassica oleracea, the same species that gave us broccoli, kale, cabbage, and cauliflower. The edible part of kohlrabi is not a root and not a bulb. It is a swollen stem. The main stem of the plant has been bred over centuries to thicken and store water and nutrients, forming the round shape we see. This type of structure is called a corm. Kohlrabi has a mild, slightly sweet flavor with a crisp texture similar to a broccoli stem or a jicama. It can be eaten raw, sliced into salads, roasted, or added to soups. The name comes from German and means cabbage turnip, which is a fair description of where it sits in the flavor spectrum. Kohlrabi is popular in German and Eastern European cooking, and it is yet another example of how a single wild plant species was pushed in radically different directions by farmers who selected for different traits: leaves, flowers, stems, or buds, and ended up with vegetables that look nothing alike. Turnips are one of the hardiest and most reliable root vegetables ever cultivated. They grow in poor soil, tolerate cold, and mature quickly. For centuries, they were a lifeline for people with little else to eat. But turnips carry a difficult history. During the First World War, when the British naval blockade cut off food imports to Germany, the country faced severe shortages. The winter of 1916 to 1917 became known as the Steck-Reuben winter, the turnip winter, because turnips were one of the few foods still available. They were used as substitutes for bread, potatoes, coffee, and meat. People survived on turnip soup, turnip bread, turnip coffee. The experience was so traumatic that turnips became associated with hunger and suffering in German culture for generations. Like kale and parsnips, turnips undergo cold sweetening, When frost arrives, enzymes convert stored starch into sugar, protecting the plant's cells from freezing. This makes turnips taste sweeter and less bitter after cold weather. The same chemistry that helps the plant survive winter also makes it more pleasant to eat. Turnips contain vitamin C, fiber, and glucosinolates, the sulfur compounds found across the brassica family that give them their slightly peppery flavor when raw. Snap peas are one of the newest vegetables in the world. They were created in the 1970s by a plant breeder named Calvin Lambourne, who crossed snow peas, which have flat, edible pods with tiny peas inside, with traditional shelling peas, which have plump, sweet peas inside tough, inedible pods. The goal was to combine the best of both, the crisp, edible pod of the snow pea with the full, sweet peas of the shelling variety. It worked. The result was the sugar snap pea, a pod that is crunchy, sweet, and entirely edible, peas and all. From a plant breeding perspective, creating snap peas required identifying and enhancing genetic traits that controlled pod texture and the thickness of the tough inner membrane that normally makes pea pods inedible. By selecting plants where this membrane was naturally thinner and crossing them with varieties that produced large, sweet peas, Lambourne created something that had never existed before. Snap peas are also nitrogen fixers. Like all legumes, they form partnerships with bacteria in their roots that convert nitrogen from the air into a form the plant can use, enriching the soil for whatever is planted next. Endive and escarole are leafy greens with a pronounced bitterness that sets them apart from milder salad leaves. This bitterness comes from compounds called sesquiterpene lactones, the same family of compounds found in lettuce's sleepy sap, but in much higher concentrations. These compounds are the plant's defense against being eaten. The bitter taste discourages herbivores from consuming the leaves. In humans, sensitivity to bitterness varies enormously because of genetics. A gene called TAS2R38 controls how strongly you perceive certain bitter compounds. People who carry one version of this gene, sometimes called supertasters, experience bitterness much more intensely than people with a different version. This means that Brussels, sprouts, kale, endive, and radicchio genuinely taste more bitter to some people than to others. It is not a matter of preference alone. It is a difference in biology. Belgian endive is grown in a particularly unusual way. The plants are first grown in fields, then the leafy tops are removed and the roots are placed in dark rooms to force new growth. Without any light, the new shoots produce no chlorophyll, resulting in pale, tightly packed leaves with a milder flavor than field-grown endive. The technique was discovered by accident in Belgium in the 1850s, when a farmer found pale shoots growing from chicory roots stored in his cellar. Jicama, a crisp, slightly sweet root vegetable popular in Mexican cuisine, has a texture that defies cooking. Most vegetables soften when heated, but jicama stays crunchy even after being stir-fried, roasted, or simmered in soup. This unusual persistence comes from its high content of inulin, the same type of fiber found in Jerusalem artichokes. Inulin is a chain of fructose molecules that resists breakdown by heat and by human digestive enzymes. It passes through the stomach and small intestine intact, reaching the large intestine where gut bacteria ferment it. This makes inulin a prebiotic, a substance that feeds beneficial bacteria in your gut. However, this fermentation also produces gas, which is why some people experience bloating after eating large amounts of inulin-rich foods. Jicama is typically eaten raw in Mexico, sliced into sticks and sprinkled with lime juice and chili powder. It is refreshing, low in calories, and rich in vitamin C. The plant itself is a legume related to beans and peas, and only the underground tuber is safe to eat. The seeds, pods, and above-ground parts of the plant contain rotenune, a compound that is toxic to humans and is actually used as a natural insecticide. Seaweed is found in the vegetable section of many shops, but it is not a plant. It is algae, a completely different type of organism. Algae are photosynthetic, like plants, meaning they use sunlight to make energy, but they lack the complex structures that define true plants. No roots, no stems, no leaves, no flowers. Seaweed has a holdfast that anchors it to rocks, a stipe that functions like a stem, and blades that float near the surface to capture light. But none of these are true plant organs. They evolved independently. Seaweed is one of the few non-animal sources of iodine, a mineral essential for thyroid function. The ocean concentrates iodine, and seaweeds absorb it directly from the water. Some varieties contain so much iodine that eating too much can actually cause thyroid problems. Seaweed also produces vitamin D when exposed to sunlight, a trait it shares with human skin, but not with most plants. In Japan, Korea, and coastal communities around the world, seaweed has been a dietary staple for thousands of years. Nori wraps sushi. Wakame goes in miso soup. Kombu flavors dashi broth. From a sustainability perspective, seaweed is gaining attention because it grows rapidly, requires no fresh water, no fertilizer, and no farmland, and it absorbs carbon dioxide as it grows. Celeriac, also called celery root, is the same species as the celery stalks you buy in the supermarket. Both are Apium graveolens. But while common celery has been bred for tall, crisp stalks, celeriac has been bred for a large, knobby root. Same species, different selection pressures, completely different looking vegetables. Celeriac has a mild celery flavor with nutty undertones. It can be eaten raw, shredded into the classic French salad celery remoulade, or cooked into soups, purees, and gratins. It stores well through winter, which made it a valuable crop in Northern Europe before modern refrigeration. Celeriac takes several months to grow, developing its swollen root slowly underground. It is not the most attractive vegetable. Its surface is rough, knobby, and covered in rootlets. But beneath the exterior, the flesh is smooth, creamy, and versatile. It also contains phthalides, the same aromatic compounds found in celery stalks, which give both vegetables their distinctive smell and may have blood pressure lowering effects. Scallions, also called spring onions or green onions, are not always what they seem. Some scallions are simply young onions harvested before the bulb has had time to develop. Others are specific varieties that have been bred to never form a bulb at all. They stay slim and green, regardless of how long they grow. Both types are sold under the same name, the green tops and the white. Base of a scallion contain completely different flavor compounds. The white part, closer to the root, is richer in sulfur compounds and has a sharper, more pungent taste, closer to a mature onion. The green tops are milder and slightly sweet, containing more chlorophyll and different aromatic molecules. This is why recipes often specify using the white parts for cooking and the green parts as a garnish. They contribute different flavors. Scallions are one of the easiest vegetables to regrow at home. If you place the white base with its roots in a glass of water or a pot of soil, it will often sprout new green shoots within days. This happens because the base still contains living meristematic tissue, cells that are capable of dividing and producing new growth. Carrots are biennial plants, meaning they have a 2-year life cycle. In the first year, the plant focuses entirely on growing leaves above ground and storing energy in its root below ground. It photosynthesizes all summer, converts the energy into sugars and starch, and packs it all into the taproot. In the second year, the plant uses that stored energy to send up a tall flower stalk, produce seeds, and die. We harvest carrots at the end of their first year, when all the energy is concentrated in the root and the plant has not yet spent any of it on reproduction. If you leave a carrot in the ground through winter and into the following spring, it will sprout a tall, ferny stalk, topped with clusters of tiny white flowers. The root itself will become woody, tough, and bitter as the plant redirects its resources from storage to reproduction. Wild carrots, also known as Queen Anne's lace, still grow in meadows and roadsides across Europe. They produce the same flower clusters as cultivated carrots but have small, pale, fibrous roots, nothing like the plump orange ones in your kitchen. The difference is thousands of years of selective breeding, farmers choosing the plants with the fattest, sweetest roots and saving their seeds. Radicchio is a leafy vegetable that looks like a small red cabbage but is actually a type of chicory. It has deep burgundy leaves with bright white ribs and a distinctively bitter flavor. The red color comes from anthocyanin pigments, the same antioxidant compounds that color blueberries, red grapes, and a red cabbage. The bitterness comes from sesquiterpene lactones, the same family of compounds found in endive. Together, these two characteristics, vivid color and bold bitterness, make radicchio one of the most visually striking and flavorfully intense salad ingredients. In Italy, radicchio is much more than a salad leaf. It is grilled, roasted, braised, and stirred into risotto. Heat mellows the bitterness and brings out a natural sweetness. Different varieties come from specific Italian regions. Radicchio di Treviso has elongated leaves and a milder flavor, while Radicchio di Chioggia is round with a more pronounced bitterness. Some varieties are forced, grown in darkness like Belgian endive, to produce tender, pale inner leaves with less bitterness. Green patches on potato skin are not just a cosmetic issue, they are a chemical warning. When potatoes are exposed to light, they produce chlorophyll, which turns the skin green. But the same conditions that trigger chlorophyll production also increase levels of solanine, a toxic alkaloid compound. In small amounts, solanine causes a bitter taste. In larger amounts, it can cause nausea, vomiting, headaches, and neurological symptoms. This is why potatoes should be stored in the dark and why green potatoes, or potatoes that taste unusually bitter, should not be eaten. Peeling removes most of the solanine since it concentrates in and just below the skin. Cooking reduces the levels somewhat, but does not eliminate them entirely. The plant produces solanine as a defense against insects and herbivores. The bitter taste and toxic effects discourage animals from eating the tuber. It is the same compound found in lower levels in eggplants and in the leaves and stems of tomato plants. The entire nightshade family uses variations of this chemical defense. For potatoes specifically, the rule is simple. If it is green, cut it away. If it tastes bitter, do not eat it. The plant is telling you something. The compounds that make vegetables good for us are often the same compounds that the plant produced to defend itself. When a plant is attacked by insects exposed to harsh sunlight or grown in poor soil, it responds by producing defensive chemicals. Compounds called phytonutrients or phytochemicals. These include carotenoids, flavonoids, glucosinolates, and polyphenols. Each class works differently, but many of them act as antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, or antimicrobials within the plant. When we eat these vegetables, the same compounds can benefit our bodies too. Scientists have a name for this: xenohormesis. The idea that stress response chemicals from one organism can trigger beneficial stress responses in another. A plant that had to fight off insects produces more glucosinolates. When we eat that plant, those glucosinolates activate protective pathways in our own cells. In a sense, we are borrowing the plant's survival chemistry. This is one reason why some researchers believe that organically grown vegetables, which may face more natural stresses without synthetic pesticides, sometimes contain higher levels of certain phytonutrients. The plant had to work harder to survive, and it produced more defensive compounds as a result. Pea plants can grip and climb without any muscles, bones, or nervous system. They do this using tendrils, thin, curling extensions that reach out from the plant and wrap around any support they touch. The process is called thigmotropism, growth in response to touch. When a tendril makes contact with a surface, the cells on the side touching the support grow more slowly than the cells on the opposite side. This difference in growth rate causes the tendril to curl around the object, like a finger slowly closing around a pole. The response is entirely chemical. No brain, no nerves, no decision-making. Just differential growth triggered by physical contact. Once a tendril has coiled around a support, it often develops a spring-like section in the middle that acts as a shock absorber, allowing the plant to sway in the wind without breaking. Pea tendrils are remarkably strong for their size and can support the weight of the plant as it climbs toward light. This climbing strategy allows peas to reach sunlight without investing energy in building a thick, sturdy stem. They borrow structural support from whatever is nearby. When you look at a head of broccoli, you are looking at thousands of tiny, unopened flower buds packed tightly together. Each of those small green bumps on the surface is an individual bud that, if left unharvested, would open into a small, yellow flower. Broccoli is harvested specifically at this stage, after the buds have formed but before they bloom, because once the flowers open, the texture becomes tough and the flavor turns bitter. The plant is redirecting its energy from the compact, nutritious bud stage into reproduction. The tight cluster of buds is called an inflorescence, a structure that many plants in the Brassica family produce. Cauliflower is also an inflorescence, but one that has been bred to remain in an even more immature state. The individual buds are so tightly packed and undeveloped that they form a smooth, solid mass, rather than distinct bumps. The difference between broccoli and cauliflower is largely a matter of how far the flower development was allowed to progress before selective breeding locked it in place. Carrots contain compounds called polyacetylenes, a class of molecules that are relatively rare in the plant kingdom but concentrated in the carrot family. The most studied of these is falcarinol, which serves as the plant's natural defense against fungal infection. Falcarinol gives raw carrots a faintly bitter undertone that most people do not consciously notice, but that disappears with cooking, since heat breaks the compound down. Research, primarily in laboratory and animal studies, has suggested that falcarinol may have protective effects against certain types of cancer, particularly colon cancer. The evidence is preliminary and not yet confirmed in large human trials, but it has generated significant scientific interest. Polyacetylenes are part of a broader story about how the chemicals plants produce for their own survival can have unexpected effects in the human body. The carrot did not evolve falcarinol to protect us. It evolved falcarinol to protect itself from soil fungi. We just happen to benefit when we eat it. Onion layers are not petals or segments. They are modified leaf bases. Each concentric ring you see when you slice an onion is the swollen, thickened base of a leaf that grew from the central stem. As the plant grows, each new leaf emerges from the center, and the base of the previous leaf swells with stored water and nutrients, forming the layers we see. The dry, papery outer skin is simply the outermost leaves that have dried out and died, forming a protective wrapper around the living layers inside. An onion is essentially a compressed stack of leaves arranged around a central growing point. If you planted an onion in the ground and left it, that central point would eventually send up a tall stalk topped with a round cluster of tiny flowers. The entire structure, the layers, the skin, the stored energy, exists so the plant can survive dormancy and then have enough resources to flower and produce seeds when conditions are right. Every onion in your kitchen is a plant waiting to bloom. Celery can cause an unusual reaction in people who handle large amounts of it and then go into sunlight. The stems and leaves contain compounds called psoralins, specifically a type called furanocoumarins, which can make skin more sensitive to ultraviolet light. If celery juice gets on your skin and you then expose that skin to strong sunlight, it can cause a condition called phytophotodermatitis, a skin reaction that looks like a sunburn or a chemical burn, sometimes producing blisters and lasting discoloration. The plant produces psoralins as a defense against herbivores and fungal infection. In nature, these compounds make the plant tissue unpleasant or harmful to organisms that try to eat it. Celery is not the only plant that does this. Parsnips, limes, figs, and several other plants contain similar compounds. For most people eating normal amounts of celery, this is not a concern. But farm workers who handle celery all day, or anyone who gets celery juice on their skin before spending time in the sun, can experience this reaction. It is one of the more surprising ways that a common vegetable can interact with the human body. Legume vegetables, peas, beans, lentils, and their relatives, have a hidden ability that most other plants lack. They can take nitrogen directly from the air. Nitrogen is essential for plant growth. It is a key component of proteins, DNA, and chlorophyll. But most plants cannot use the nitrogen gas that makes up 78% of the atmosphere. They depend on nitrogen that has already been converted into forms like ammonia or nitrate in the soil. Legumes, however, have formed a partnership with bacteria called rhizobia that live in small nodules on their roots. These bacteria can convert atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia, a process called nitrogen fixation, which the plant then uses to build proteins. In exchange, the plant provides the bacteria with sugars from photosynthesis. When the legume plant dies or is harvested, the nitrogen stored in its roots is released into the soil, enriching it for the next crop. This is why farmers have rotated legumes with other crops for thousands of years. Long before anyone understood the chemistry, they observed that soil grew better crops after legumes had been planted in it. If you have ever eaten sweet corn straight from the garden, you know it tastes noticeably sweeter than corn bought from a shop days after harvest. This is because sweet corn begins converting its sugars back into starch the moment it is picked. Within just a few hours, a significant portion of the sugar has been transformed, and the corn tastes less sweet and more starchy. This happens because enzymes inside the kernels continue working after harvest, converting sucrose into starch as part of the plant's normal metabolic process. Refrigeration slows this conversion. Cold temperatures reduce enzyme activity, which is why corn should be chilled as quickly as possible after picking. Modern plant breeders have developed super sweet corn varieties that carry genetic mutations, slowing the sugar-to-starch conversion. These varieties stay sweet much longer after harvest, making them better suited to the delays of commercial supply chains. It is a perfect example of how understanding plant biochemistry, specifically how enzymes work and how temperature affects them, has directly shaped the foods available in supermarkets today. The Three Sisters is one of the oldest and most elegant examples of companion planting in agricultural history. Developed by indigenous peoples across the Americas, the system involves planting 3 crops together: corn, beans, and squash. Each plant contributes something the others need. The corn grows tall, providing a natural pole for the bean vines to climb, eliminating the need for stakes or trellises. The beans fix nitrogen from the air through their root bacteria, enriching the soil with nutrients that feed the corn and squash. The squash grows along the ground, its broad leaves shading the soil, which suppresses weeds, retains moisture, and keeps the ground cool. The prickly hairs on squash stems also deter some animal pests. Together, the 3 crops produce more food per acre than any of them would alone, and they do it while improving the soil rather than depleting it. The system was practiced by the Haudenosaunee, Maya, and many other indigenous nations for thousands of years before European contact. It is a complete agricultural ecosystem designed by observation, experimentation, and deep understanding of how plants interact. Purple carrots are not a modern novelty. They are the original. Before Dutch farmers bred the orange carrot in the 1600s, most cultivated carrots were purple, getting their color from anthocyanin pigments. The same antioxidant compounds found in blueberries, red cabbage, and eggplant skin. But purple carrots also contain beta-carotene underneath the anthocyanin layer, giving them a double pigment system that provides 2 different types of antioxidant protection. When you cut a purple carrot open, you often see a purple exterior with an orange or yellow core. The 2 pigment systems are layered. Some modern purple carrot varieties have been specifically bred to maximize both pigments. The original shift from purple to orange was purely aesthetic and cultural. Dutch breeders selected for orange because it was novel and possibly symbolic. There was no nutritional advantage. In fact, purple carrots may offer slightly more diverse antioxidant benefits because of their dual pigment chemistry. Today, heritage purple carrots are making a comeback in markets and gardens, reconnecting us with the vegetable as it existed for most of human history. Pickled cucumbers rely on the same fermentation process that turns cabbage into sauerkraut. When cucumbers are submerged in salt water, a brine, the salt creates conditions that favor beneficial lactobacillus bacteria while inhibiting harmful microorganisms. These bacteria consume the natural sugars in the cucumber and produce lactic acid as a waste product. As lactic acid accumulates, the environment becomes increasingly acidic, which preserves the cucumber and prevents spoilage. This is called lactofermentation, and it was one of humanity's earliest food preservation techniques, practiced independently by cultures across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, thousands of years before refrigeration existed. Fermented pickles also contain probiotics, the live beneficial bacteria that produce the lactic acid, which support gut health. However, most pickles sold in supermarkets today are not fermented at all. They are preserved in vinegar, which provides the sour taste but skips the fermentation process entirely. Vinegar pickles contain no live bacteria. To get genuine fermented pickles, you need to look for products labeled naturally fermented or lacto-fermented, usually found in the refrigerated section rather than on the shelf. Tomatoes are one of the rare vegetables that become more nutritious when you cook them. Most vegetables lose some nutrients during cooking. Heat breaks down vitamin C and certain B vitamins. But tomatoes contain lycopene, a powerful antioxidant locked inside the cell walls. When you cook tomatoes, the heat breaks those cell walls open, releasing far more lycopene than you would get from eating them raw. Studies have shown that cooked tomatoes can provide 2 to 3 times more bioavailable lycopene than raw ones. There is another trick too. Lycopene is fat-soluble, meaning your body absorbs it much more efficiently when it is eaten with a source of fat. This is why tomatoes, cooked in olive oil, as they are in so many Italian dishes, deliver more lycopene to your bloodstream than tomatoes eaten on their own. The traditional Mediterranean combination of tomatoes, olive oil, and garlic is not just delicious. It is, from a nutritional science perspective, an almost perfectly designed delivery system for antioxidants. Before sugar was widely available in Europe, carrots were one of the sweetest foods people could grow. In medieval England and across much of Northern Europe, carrots were used to sweeten cakes, puddings, and pastries. The natural sweetness comes from sucrose, the same type of sugar found in sugarcane and sugar beets, which the carrot stores in its taproot as an energy reserve. Carrot cake, which many people think of as a modern health food trend, actually has roots in medieval baking, when carrots were a practical and affordable substitute for expensive imported sugar. During World War II, when sugar was rationed in Britain, carrot-based desserts made a comeback. The government actively promoted recipes using carrots as sweeteners. The sweetness was always there. Humans simply used it whenever the alternatives were scarce. Parsley is far more than a garnish. It is one of the most nutrient-dense leaves you can eat. A small bunch of parsley provides extraordinary amounts of vitamin K, which is essential for blood clotting and bone health. It is also rich in vitamin C, vitamin A, folate, and iron. Beyond vitamins, parsley contains high levels of a compound called apigenin, a flavonoid that has been studied for its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects, and that some research suggests may have calming properties that support brain health. The ancient Greeks did not eat parsley at all. They associated it with death and used it to decorate tombs and make funeral wreaths. The Romans were the first to eat it regularly, chewing the leaves after meals to freshen their breath, particularly after eating garlic. This practice works because parsley contains chlorophyll, which can help neutralize odors, though the effect is mild. Parsley is a biennial plant. It produces leaves in its first year and flowers in its second, and it belongs to the same family as carrots, celery, and fennel. A leaf that most people push to the side of the plate turns out to be one of the most chemically interesting things on it. Microgreens, the tiny seedlings of vegetables and herbs harvested just days after germination, can contain between 4 and 40 times the concentration of nutrients found in the same vegetables at full maturity. This sounds almost too good to be true, but the science is straightforward. When a seed germinates, it packs its first leaves with a concentrated dose of vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients to fuel the young plant's rapid early growth. At this stage, the nutrients are densely packed into a very small amount of plant material. As the plant matures and grows larger, those same nutrients are diluted across a much bigger structure. More stems, more leaves, more water. Gram for gram, the tiny seedling is more concentrated than the full-grown plant. Broccoli microgreens, for example, contain significantly higher levels of sulforaphane, a compound studied for its potential anti-cancer properties, than mature broccoli. Radish microgreens are rich in vitamin C and antioxidants. Of course, you eat far more grams of a full-sized vegetable than you would of. Microgreens, so the total nutrient intake depends on portion size, but the concentration per gram is genuinely remarkable. Root vegetables that grow in soil have a distinctive earthy smell. And that smell does not come from the vegetable itself. It comes from the bacteria in the soil. Specifically, a type of soil bacteria called Streptomyces produces a compound called geosmin as a byproduct of its metabolism. Geosmin is what gives freshly turned earth, rain on dry soil, and root vegetables like beetroot and carrots their characteristic earthy aroma. The human nose is extraordinarily sensitive to geosmin. We can detect it at concentrations as low as 5 parts per trillion, which is roughly equivalent to detecting a single drop of water in an Olympic swimming pool. Scientists believe this extreme sensitivity may have evolved because the ability to detect water-rich soil was a survival advantage for our ancestors. Geosmin is also responsible for the earthy off flavor that sometimes appears in freshwater fish or tap water. The same compound, the same bacteria, a different context. Many of the vitamins in vegetables cannot be absorbed by your body unless they are eaten with fat. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat-soluble. They dissolve in fat, not water, and they need fat present in the digestive system to be absorbed through the intestinal wall and into the bloodstream. This means that a salad dressed with olive oil delivers significantly more vitamin A from the carrots, more vitamin K from the lettuce, and more vitamin E from the tomatoes than the same salad eaten dry. It is not just about flavor. The oil is a nutrient delivery system. Traditional cuisines around the world seem to have understood this intuitively. Mediterranean cooking pairs vegetables with olive oil. South Asian cooking uses ghee and coconut oil with vegetable curries. East Asian stir-fries cook vegetables in sesame or peanut oil. These traditions were developed through generations of observation. People noticed they felt better, or the food tasted richer, or the colors were more vibrant when fat was included. The biochemistry now explains why. Root vegetables, carrots, parsnips, turnips, beets, sweet potatoes, all share the same fundamental survival strategy. During the warm growing season, the plant produces leaves above ground that capture sunlight and convert it into sugar through photosynthesis. That sugar is then transported down to the root, where it is converted into starch and stored. The root swells as it accumulates energy, getting fatter and denser through the summer and autumn. The plant's plan is to survive winter in a dormant state, living off its stored energy, and then use that energy in spring to send up a flower stalk, reproduce, and complete its life cycle. Every root vegetable in your kitchen is an energy bank, a reserve that the plant created for its own future. We interrupt that plan by digging the root up and eating it. The sweetness, the density, the starchiness. All of it is stored sunlight, converted through photosynthesis and packed underground for a spring. That, for the vegetables we eat, never comes. Blanching vegetables before freezing is not just a cooking technique. It is a chemical intervention. When vegetables are harvested, the enzymes inside their cells continue working. These enzymes gradually break down color, flavor, texture, and nutrients. Even at freezing temperatures, some enzyme activity continues just very slowly. Blanching, briefly plunging vegetables into boiling water or steam for 1 to 3 minutes, deactivates these enzymes by denaturing them, which means the heat changes the shape of the enzyme proteins, so they can no longer function. The vegetables are then immediately cooled in ice water to stop the cooking process. This two-step technique preserves the color, texture, and nutritional value of frozen vegetables far better than freezing them raw. It is the reason commercially frozen vegetables, blanched and frozen within hours of harvest, can sometimes be more nutritious than fresh vegetables that have spent days traveling from farm to shop to kitchen. The enzymes that were slowly degrading the fresh vegetables were never stopped. In the frozen ones, they were switched off at the factory. Every seed contains enough stored energy to begin a new life without any help from the soil. Inside a seed is an embryo, the tiny, dormant beginning of a plant, surrounded by a food supply called the endosperm or the cotyledons, depending on the species. This food supply is made of starch, protein, and oils, concentrated energy that the embryo will use to fuel its first days of growth. When the seed germinates, it cracks open and the embryo sends a root downward and a shoot upward, powered entirely by the stored reserves inside the seed. The first leaves that appear, called cotyledons or seed leaves, often look different from the plant's true leaves. Their job is to begin photosynthesis as quickly as possible so the young plant can start making its own energy before the seed's reserves run out. This transition from living off stored food to generating your own through sunlight is one of the most critical moments in a plant's life. A seed is a survival capsule, a self-contained package of potential energy, waiting for water, warmth, and light to trigger the sequence that turns chemistry into life. Heirloom vegetables are open-pollinated varieties that have been passed down through generations of gardeners and farmers, sometimes for 100 years or more. Unlike commercial hybrid varieties, which are created by crossing two specific parent lines and must be recreated fresh each generation, heirloom seeds produce plants that are true to type, meaning the next generation will look and taste like the parent. This allows gardeners to save seeds and replant them year after year. Heirloom varieties are genetically diverse because they have been shaped by local conditions, soil, climate, pests, rainfall, over many decades. A tomato variety that has been grown in the same Italian village for 80 years is adapted to that specific environment in ways a commercial hybrid cannot replicate. However, heirloom varieties often produce lower yields, have shorter shelf lives, and are more variable in appearance than commercial hybrids, which is why supermarkets tend to stock hybrids instead. The rise of heirloom gardening in recent decades is partly a response to the loss of this diversity. When commercial agriculture converges on a small number of high-performing varieties, older varieties can disappear entirely, and with them, the genetic options that might prove essential in the future. The color of a vegetable is a rough but surprisingly reliable guide to the nutrients it contains. Orange and yellow vegetables, carrots, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, are colored by carotenoid pigments, which the body converts into vitamin A. Red vegetables, tomatoes, red peppers, contain lycopene, a carotenoid associated with cardiovascular health. Purple and blue vegetables, aubergine skin, purple cabbage, purple carrots, contain anthocyanins, antioxidants that may reduce inflammation. Green vegetables owe their color to chlorophyll and tend to be rich in folate, vitamin K, and iron. White and pale vegetables, garlic, onions, cauliflower, contain compounds like allicin and quercetin that support immune function. This is the basis of the Eat the Rainbow advice. By eating vegetables of different colors, you naturally consume a wider variety of protective compounds. The plant did not evolve these pigments for your benefit. Each one serves a specific function in the plant: capturing light, repelling pests, attracting pollinators, protecting against UV damage. But the same chemistry that protects the plant also happens to protect you. Some plants release chemicals from their roots or leaves that influence the growth of nearby plants, a phenomenon called allelopathy. Black walnut trees, for example, produce a compound called juglone that inhibits the growth of many vegetables planted near them. Some vegetable plants use allelopathy defensively, releasing compounds that suppress weed growth around their roots. Others attract beneficial insects through volatile chemicals released from their leaves. The Three Sisters system we discussed earlier works partly through chemical signaling. The squash leaves release compounds that deter certain pests, while the bean roots attract nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Companion planting, the practice of growing certain vegetables together because they benefit each other, relies on these chemical interactions, even though traditional farmers developed the techniques long before anyone understood the chemistry. Marigolds planted near tomatoes release compounds that repel nematodes, tiny soil-dwelling worms that attack tomato roots. Basil planted near peppers may repel aphids through volatile oils. The garden is not a collection of isolated plants. It is a network of chemical conversations. Vegetables do not stop being alive when you pick them. After harvest, vegetables continue to respire. They take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide, consuming their stored sugars in the process. This is the same basic chemical reaction that happens in your own cells when you breathe. The rate of respiration varies dramatically between vegetables. Leafy greens like spinach and lettuce respire quickly and wilt within days. Root vegetables like carrots and potatoes respire slowly and can last for weeks or months. Refrigeration works by slowing respiration. Cold temperatures reduce the rate of all chemical reactions, including the enzymatic processes that break down sugars and degrade cell structure. This is why a head of lettuce lasts a few days on the counter but over a week in the fridge. The lettuce is still alive in both places, still consuming its own energy, but the cold slows the process down. Understanding that vegetables are still metabolically active after harvest explains why storage conditions matter so much, and why the time between picking and eating directly affects both nutrition and flavor. Hydroponics, growing vegetables without soil with roots suspended in nutrient-rich water, eliminates one of the biggest variables in agriculture. In soil, plants must search for nutrients, competing with other organisms and coping with uneven distribution. In a hydroponic system, every nutrient the plant needs is dissolved in the water at precisely controlled concentrations. The roots do not need to grow long and wide to find food. The food comes to them. As a result, hydroponic plants often grow faster and produce higher yields than soil-grown plants. The technique is used commercially in greenhouses around the world and has even been tested on the International Space Station, where NASA has grown lettuce and other vegetables in microgravity using hydroponic systems. The challenge with hydroponics is that it requires constant monitoring. If the nutrient balance is wrong, or the water pH shifts, or the pump fails, the plants have no soil to fall back on. But in controlled environments, hydroponics can grow vegetables year-round in any climate, using significantly less water than traditional agriculture. Grafting is a technique where the top of one plant, called the scion, is physically attached to the root system of a different plant, called the rootstock. The two grow together as a single organism, but they remain genetically distinct. The fruit produced by the scion is genetically identical to the scion variety, not the rootstock. Grafting is common in fruit trees but is increasingly used in vegetable production, particularly with tomatoes. A tomato variety prized for its flavor but vulnerable to soil-borne diseases can be grafted onto a rootstock from a disease-resistant variety. The resulting plant has the disease resistance of the rootstock and produces tomatoes with the flavor of the scion. It is two plants living as one, each contributing what it does best. Grafting works because plant cells at the junction site grow together and form new vascular connections, allowing water and nutrients to flow between the two genetically different tissues. The technique has been used for thousands of years. Ancient Chinese and Roman farmers both practiced it, and it remains one of the most effective ways to combine desirable traits without genetic modification. Fermented vegetables, sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, miso, all contain living communities of beneficial bacteria that can support the diversity of your gut microbiome. The human gut contains trillions of bacteria from hundreds of different species, and this community plays a role in digestion, immune function, mood regulation, and even weight management. Fermented vegetables introduce live lactobacillus and other probiotic bacteria directly into the digestive system, where they can take up residence and contribute to this microbial community. The practice of fermenting vegetables evolved independently in cultures across the world. Korean kimchi, German sauerkraut, Japanese tsukemono, Indian achar, Middle Eastern torshi, long before anyone knew bacteria existed. Each culture developed its own techniques, flavors, and traditions, but the underlying biology is the same. Beneficial bacteria convert sugars into acid, preserving the food and creating a living, probiotic product. The parallel invention of fermentation across unrelated cultures suggests that humans have an intuitive understanding, built through generations of trial and observation, that these foods are good for us. Broccoli contains a compound called sulforaphane that is one of the most studied plant chemicals in nutrition science. Sulforaphane is not present in intact broccoli. It is produced when the plant's cells are damaged, through the same glucosinolate myrosinase reaction we have discussed in horseradish and mustard. When you chew raw broccoli, the enzyme myrosinase mixes with a glucosinolate called glucoraphanin and converts it into sulforaphane. Research has shown that sulforaphane can activate detoxification pathways in human cells, reduce inflammation, and protect DNA from damage. However, cooking broccoli destroys myrosinase, meaning cooked broccoli produces far less sulforaphane than raw. There is a workaround. Adding a pinch of mustard seed powder to cooked broccoli reintroduces myrosinase from the mustard, reactivating the conversion and restoring sulforaphane production. It sounds like a kitchen hack, but it is backed by published research. A sprinkle of mustard powder on your steamed broccoli genuinely increases its protective chemistry. Every vegetable you have ever eaten was shaped by human hands. Not one of them exists in its current form in the wild. Carrots were bred from a small, bitter, fibrous root. Broccoli was coaxed out of a scraggly sea cliff plant. Corn was transformed from a grass with tiny seeds into one of the most productive crops on Earth. Potatoes were dug from the Andes and spread across every continent. Every generation of farmers looked at what grew, chose the plants that were slightly better, slightly sweeter, slightly larger, slightly hardier, saved those seeds and planted them again. No laboratories, no gene sequencing, just observation, selection, and patience, repeated over thousands of years. The vegetables in your kitchen are the accumulated result of 10,000 years of human attention. They are not natural in the way a forest is natural. They are collaborations between plants that evolved to survive and humans who learn to guide that evolution towards something nourishing. A single teaspoon of healthy garden soil contains more living organisms than there are people on Earth. Bacteria, fungi, archaea, protozoa, nematodes, billions of microscopic life forms packed into a pinch of dirt. These organisms are not just passengers in the soil. They are the engine that makes vegetable growing possible. Bacteria break down dead organic matter and release nutrients in forms that plant roots can absorb. Fungi form networks of microscopic threads, called hyphae, that extend the effective reach of plant roots, delivering water and phosphorus from distances the roots could never reach alone. Protozoa consume bacteria and release nitrogen as a byproduct, fertilizing the soil. Nematodes regulate bacterial populations. The whole system is an interconnected web of eating, excreting, decomposing and recycling that converts dead material into living nutrition. Without this invisible community, soil would be inert dust. Vegetables would not grow. The richness of your garden, the color of your carrots, the sweetness of your tomatoes, the crunch of your radishes, begins with the organisms you cannot see. Beneath the surface of a forest floor and in healthy garden soil, fungi form vast underground networks that connect the roots of different plants. These networks, called mycorrhizal associations, are partnerships between fungal threads and plant roots. The fungus extends its hyphae, incredibly thin filaments, far beyond the reach of the root system, accessing water and minerals from a much larger volume of soil. It delivers these resources to the plant. In exchange, the plant provides the fungus with sugars produced through photosynthesis. But the network does more than transport nutrients. Research has shown that plants connected through mycorrhizal networks can transfer warning chemicals to each other. When one plant is attacked by insects, neighboring plants connected through the fungal network may increase their own defensive compounds before the insects even arrive. Scientists have called these networks the wood wide web. In a vegetable garden, mycorrhizal fungi can improve the growth and disease resistance of many crops. The invisible threads beneath your feet are carrying messages and resources between plants that appear to be growing independently, but are, in fact, connected. The oldest cultivated vegetables trace back over 10,000 years to a region called the Fertile Crescent, a crescent-shaped area of land stretching from modern-day Iraq through Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, and into Egypt. This is where agriculture began. The earliest farmers did not invent new plants. They observed wild ones, wild peas, wild lentils, wild wheat, wild barley, and began deliberately planting, tending, and harvesting them. Over generations, they selected plants with traits that made farming easier, seeds that stayed on the stalk instead of scattering, pods that did not shatter, roots that grew larger. These small choices, repeated over centuries, gradually transformed wild plants into domesticated crops. The decision to cultivate vegetables, to stay in one place, tend a garden, and wait for a harvest, was one of the most consequential decisions in human history. It led to permanent settlements, food surpluses, population growth, specialization of labor, and eventually the development of cities, writing, and civilization. Every vegetable on your plate is a descendant of that moment. The moment a human looked at a wild plant and thought, I could grow that. Vegetables lose nutrients from the moment they are harvested, and the rate of loss can be surprisingly fast. Spinach can lose up to 50% of its folate within a week of being picked, even when refrigerated. Vitamin C, found in high concentrations in peppers, broccoli, and leafy greens, degrades steadily in the presence of light, heat, and air. Green beans can lose a third of their vitamin C within a day at room temperature. This is why the fresh vegetables in a supermarket, which may have been harvested days or even weeks before reaching the shelf, are not always as nutritious as they appear. Frozen vegetables, by contrast, are typically harvested at peak ripeness and blanched and frozen within hours. The blanching deactivates the enzymes that degrade nutrients, and the freezing halts further chemical reactions. In many cases, frozen vegetables retain more vitamins than fresh ones that have been sitting in transit and on shelves. The assumption that fresh is always better than frozen is one of the most persistent myths in nutrition. Wild ancestors of nearly every vegetable you eat are still alive somewhere in the world. Wild carrots, known as Queen Anne's lace, grow in meadows across Europe and Western Asia. Wild brassicas cling to limestone sea cliffs along the Mediterranean coast. Wild tomatoes grow in the Andes Mountains of South America. Wild corn, teosinte, still grows in Mexican grasslands. These wild relatives carry genetic diversity that has been lost in cultivated varieties through thousands of years of selective breeding. That diversity is not just historically interesting, it is potentially essential. As climate change alters, growing conditions and as new pests and diseases emerge, plant breeders may need to go back to these wild relatives to find genes for drought tolerance, heat resistance, or disease immunity that no longer exist in cultivated crops. Wild relatives are the genetic library of the future, and they are under threat from habitat loss, urbanization, and climate change. Protecting them is not nostalgia. It is agricultural insurance. Seed banks are humanity's backup plan for agricultural disaster. The most famous is the Svalbard Global Seed Vault in Norway, a facility built deep inside a mountain on a remote Arctic island, designed to preserve seeds from every crop variety on Earth. Inside the vault, over 1 million seed samples from gene banks around the world are stored at -18 degrees Celsius, in conditions that can keep seeds viable for hundreds or even thousands of years. The vault was built to protect against the loss of crop diversity caused by war, natural disaster, climate change, or simple neglect. It is not a museum, it is a functioning safety net. In 2015, seeds were withdrawn from Svalbard for the first time when a gene bank in Aleppo, Syria, was damaged during the civil war. The withdrawn seeds were used to re-establish the collection at new locations. The existence of Svalbard and hundreds of smaller seed banks around the world reflects a hard-learned lesson from events like the Irish potato famine. When you lose genetic diversity, you lose options. And in agriculture, losing options can mean losing everything. Every vegetable on your plate required roughly 10,000 years of human selection to exist in its current form. Wild plants chosen and replanted, seeds saved from the sweetest roots, the largest heads, the most productive vines. Observations passed from parent to child, farmer to farmer, culture to culture. No single person designed the carrot or the potato or the tomato. They were shaped collectively by millions of hands across hundreds of generations on every continent. The process was slow, patient, and cumulative. Each generation made the vegetable a little better, a little more suited to human needs, a little further from its wild origins. The vegetables we eat tonight are the end product of the longest collaborative project in human history. A project that began when the first farmer knelt in the soil of the Fertile Crescent and planted a seed on purpose. That chain of hands, reaching across 10,000 years, ends with you eating what they grew. And that is where we will leave it tonight. 100 facts about the quiet, remarkable science hidden inside the most ordinary things on your plate. From the chemistry of tears when you slice an onion, to the bacteria that make soil smell like earth. From the monk who unlocked genetics with a garden of peas, to the sailors who survived on fermented cabbage. From the wild grasses of Mexico that became corn, to the seed vaults buried in Arctic mountains to protect the future. You do not need to remember any of it. The names, the compounds, the histories. They can settle like soil after rain. What stays is the sense that the simple things are not simple at all. That a carrot is not just a carrot, that a potato carries the weight of history. that every seed contains a plan, and every garden is a collaboration between humans and plants that has been running for 10,000 years. For now, there is nothing left to learn, nothing to remember, nothing to do. Just rest. Let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts soften. Let the quiet chemistry of sleep, the gentlest process of all, carry you wherever it wants to go. Thank you for spending this time with us. Sleep well. Good night.